उससे नोट
कोई ना दोनों शीट में करते कोई इशू नहीं आई नो तो आपने सबमिट कर दो ना उसको दो शीट्स
on introduction journal citation report 2029 so journal citation report 2029 aspects of this publishing papers and group writing Dr. Subhasree Nag I'm here to introduce Dr. Subhasree Nag, who is a graduate. So she's a PhD from Texas Tech University, Health Sciences Center, from Pacific Northwest National Laboratory. So she has published several his graduate. She is promoting drug discovery and scholarly research solutions, right? And she is also conducting research at author of the India use guidance document that is being prepared. So with this, please give her a big round of applause. So I would like to request Professor Bhatt by offering a bouquet. Neeraj, I would like to request Dr. Subhasree to start her presentation. Thank you.
A very warm welcome to all the attendees here. I believe most of you, understanding faculty, are in various stages of your research career. Today's session is usually some products and solutions from database that have been utilized by the research ecosystem across several years to help researchers publish in quality journals. Okay, now because you are all you all as publishing, that is pretty much the currency of impactful they are. We look at where we have published, how impactful their research is by the means of citations. And journal citation report derives its content from websites. Now, how many of you have a subscription to websites? Started your research career or you are writing search for literature in your field important because the the extent of what you know in your field at results one in not in very impactful journals, and number two is applying for grants, your chances of rejection we need to understand why a database like Web of Science of results that are returned. Number one, result set is always dynamic. How many of us have been able to get the same every time we do the search? Not necessary, right? Your data set is everything Web of Science and metadata here also allows you to design more content, right? In saying that, what's the composition? So we sciences, life sciences, that's great. And have somebody can volunteer for what they are working on, probably. Any PhD, they're working on a project. Yes, ma'am.
Proteins.
Mycobacterial proteins. Okay, what are you exactly looking for in mycobacterial proteins?
We are looking for anti-drug development
Okay, so
process.
you are doing drug discovery, right? Perfect. So now we'll start with Web of Science and we'll now start. So when I talk about mycobacteria, bacterium, leprae, mycobacterium tuberculosis, all the different variations. We have 88,000 results, right? This is where it becomes very interesting for you all. You can now go and choose. Now, if you are looking at RNA polymerase, which is a good target for drug discovery, I have 90 papers on RNA polymerase. I can quickly choose categories. Now, if I look at categories over here, there are categories in pharmacology and medicinal chemistry, which are so. If you are using Web of Science, remember there are different classification schema on Web was of interest to you. What I have level classification, every record on Web of Science be clustered. Okay, so RNA is one such cluster. When we talk of the journals, very important for understanding journal citation reports because all journals on the Web of Science, in order to ensure that no predatory journals are a part of Web of Science, we have an editorial curation. We look at the presence of peer review, we look for editorial board integrity, we look at author diversity, the importance of that content to the scholarly community. And yes, this journal is good enough for indexing on next journal. Your all publishers, many of them based out of India, not not very low. And one of the ways we measure credibility and technology now because as ma'am said, target for her, drug development efforts. Then and in medicinal chemistry, if I go over there now, instead of 88, I can go into as low as, okay, now at the document level, I will look what are they talking about. Now they are talking about chalcones, which is the chemical structure associated with the drugs, which are, it's not talking about the target. When you are talking about target, there are different, there's topoisomerase, carbonic anhydrase. Interesting, carbonic anhydrase is not necessarily a very important, we don't associate it with mycobacterium necessarily. How many in conjunction with diuretics in the kidney? There are toll receptors, so you can take each one of them. What are toll-like receptors as a drug target for Mycobacterium tuberculosis? Can you see? Identification of, so very quickly you get what is the newest research, and you can even find newest. Okay, so maybe citation highest first. This is 2000. What? So 2020 paper. So I can look at the 100 citations. For example, I get a synthesis, a list of papers important for you, and this is one life sciences. If you are in maybe computer science and structure a search remains the same. So on Web of Science, there are 254 different journal categories. Um, every paper, we have 21,522 journals on the Web of Science. Okay, these have been all selected through a very rigorous selection process. Now, if I want to know there in what, there is something called the Web of Science MJL, Master Journal List. Just make an account on Web of Science. Okay, so if you notice over here, Web of Science is accessible to you with a personal account so that you can save search, etc. Okay, and once you are signed into Web of Science, the master journal list opens up. Now, if you go to search for a certain category, that This is where we come to journal citation reports. Now, what is a journal citation report? Let's try to understand that. I talked about 20, in the 21,522 journals. These are all classified under different subject heads. We have 254 different categories. But if you wanted to know that what are the top medicinal chemistry journals in my field, how do you know that? Very simple. All I'm going to do is journal in the Science Citation Index and 10 journal ESCI. Now, Science Citation Index, now if you go back to your Web of Science subscription that you have through option, right now you have the three flagship indexes. There could be several journals which are more geography of the world. Like they are cited maybe they published there, or the citations are also from India. We are wrong with the quality. We have just classified journals based on how globally relevant they are. So, for example, this journal, these 10 journals for ACS, pharmacology, and translation type. All of you, if you're from chemistry background, you know ACS is one of the top publishers in medicinal chemistry all over. Now, this is a newer journal, ACS develops into a more robust journal, we can move it up into the science citation index. Now, GCR allows you to identify all these nitty-gritties about the journal. So, it's ACS translation, and so we take this example. Journal citation report page, journal profile page, which tells me first thing that we see is a journal impact factor. We typically make an assumption. A journal impact factor of 4 is good, a journal impact factor of 5 is good, a very arbitrary kind of association. But have you ever thought what I actually represent? And how do I interpret when I talk about the impact of a paper in the community? There are different metrics where there are alt metrics. Many of you might have heard about alt metrics where you are calculating social media mentions, application. The only metric is that you put it to your work, right? Or you're supporting a particular statement using. Now, the more the number of citations, more important the publication is, right? More journal citation reports. What we do in journal citation reports is we try to understand via to has been to that community. So let's take translational and pharmacological science. For the year 2022, now please remember every time we're looking at for 2022 because the journal citation report is released in the June of every year. And why is articles published in the last 2 years? That is 2020 and 2021. So in this journal, for example, in 2021 and 2020, there were totally 290 articles in the year 2022 garnered 1,736 issue newspaper journal. Um, if you're coming from, let's say, mathematics, there the citation is a niche field. But there, the citations that are accrued are much lesser as compared to like medicine chemistry. Because if I go, ACI, remember we talked that ACI journals are the newer journals. They have not yet. Okay. In medicinal chemistry, it is 13.3. It's a more niche field. Now, if I go, instead of medicinal chemistry, let's go to a field which publishes, which is more in vogue. What is the field in very much in vogue nowadays? Artificial. Let us look at artificial intelligence that comes under computer science. Medicinal chemistry is a much older field, a much more traditional field. It has only 60 journals. And out of these 145, which field has got the most number of citations in the last, any guesses? Last 2-3 years. Yes.
Infection biology.
Spatial biology?
Infection.
Infectious biology, that's correct. Or in a more broader term, I would say critical care medicine. Infectious biology, yes. Because that's a very specialized, field, what we're talking, we'll take a more broader aspect, which is more like critical care, respiratory medicine. Okay, I'll give you an example of how things have changed. Let's look at this journal called Nature Medicine. This comes under biochemistry, molecular biology, cell biology, and experimental medicine. Now, please remember, a journal can come in multiple categories also. Because when you're talking about nature medicine, they publish new. They also work on the mechanism of how these drugs work, which comes under cell biology and biochemistry. But the fun part is, look at 2022, 82.9. That means in 2.5 years, the journal impact factor has almost trebled. And like COVID papers. So, point here, very simple. This number journal impact factor has It just because the JIF has increased, performance has increased very highly. Now, rank of the journal has not changed. So, very important thing is there could be journals which have an impact factor of 7 or 8. Yeah, journal citation reports help you with it very easily. Computer science. We are now here in computer science. Yeah, yes. Okay. Nature, machine intelligence, IEEE. Okay. Also, you will notice similar trends in artificial intelligence. The simple reason is because there are now much more artificial intelligence papers that have been published. The output is very high. People are citing one. These do not put a threshold. Like I know many institutions do that. We need you to publish only in paper 10. That might not be always accurate. Or open access journals or mega journals. Scientific reports, plot one, we have heard of all of these. These are mega journals. Working in a very niche field. So for example, let's say she publishes on a particular that works on a certain mycobacterial cell wall. It's a very niche work. It's a higher impact factor journal. But I would say 10,000 papers every year. Your readership base now gets actually done. Because there are a lot of scientists who still would have more impact, but traditionally well-known journals. So, because sir is here. How many of us know about JB's journal of biological chemistry? Has anyone? Nobody? Sir must be knowing it's a very tough journal to get into. What about the impact factor? Even today, it's not more than 5. But the people who publish there, some of the mechanisms of protein, they are published in journal biological chemistry. Whereas there are journals like, how many of you have heard of bioresource technology, sustainability? Huge journals. Point here is please use ECR plus Web of Science to understand the terms of what are the papers which are. Many times if you see a journal, okay, let us take this example. I will go back to Web of Science. When you're looking at top journals, probably that's not a. Let's go and get some names. Can I have some names of journals from you people? That are aspirational maybe or where you're thinking of publishing? Telecommunication systems? Telecommunication systems? 2.1. Where are the citations coming from this particular journal? Now, this is something very important. Can you notice over here in this journal, telecommunication? Narrow citation footprint. No, this depends on what you want. There are a lot of journals which are, even if Indian authors are publishing, Indian authors are citing. The point here that we are making, since you are not from Central University, if you want a and very short, how many PhD scholars are looking for a postdoc position outside India? Okay, we have some hands here. The look at European researchers. How do you know who is your readership base? Anybody who reads a journal will also be citing that journal. Look into website. Look into journal citation reports. If you go to journal citation report, for example, for this particular journal, let's do a search for telecommunication systems. Now this journal has not increased substantially. Very flat journal in terms of the number of citations received. These are some of the top journal articles which have driven the citation, these top cited articles from that journal. Why this is important as a researcher? Because if you remember, editors always look at editors also have to run a journal. If they see a certain theme performing well in the journal, they will always be more amenable, or they will want to repeat that theme again and again, right? So if a certain, if for example in this particular this thing, I see a lot on cyber security, DDoS, attacking, phishing. That means this journal has a bias, or then these kind of papers which are talking about these themes will get accepted more readily. Now let's go down. Because telecommunication systems by name, just the name tells me, I don't come from that field, but it seems it's a very broad area. But even in that broad area, if you notice over here, they are not covering all, aspects. There will be some papers or some themes which are more recurrent in a journal, and you should try to see whether your manuscript fits on those recurrent themes. important part over here. Let's look over here. This journal citation relationship. If you have access to JCR, do look into this. Can you see top journal, 20 journals which are cited by telecommunication systems. Editors who are evaluating your paper or reviewers, every journal follows a certain pattern in terms of bibliography of reference. What it means is that if you look at a paper in Nature, you will see more major citations coming from Nature, Cell, Science, those kinds of journals. If they see you, if you are sending them a paper and they see your bibliography or reference list from very obscure journals that they have not even heard of, your chances of getting a desk rejection is that much higher. If you look into this relationship and I see that if I want to publish, let's say this is my aspirational journal, I see that these are the kind journals which are highly, these are the readership base. These are the people, these journals have common topics because these are getting. Try to see whether your reference list, I'm not saying your reference list has to have all the journals which are in this list. But your reference list should be indicated. As in if you have 40 references, maybe 15 of them should come from one or more journals in this list. So that the editor is also, who is looking at, the reviewer who is looking, knows that you know the state of art in the system. Now looking at the contribution. India is the top contributor and it is also the top readership base. Okay. Now here if you notice over here, IITs and NITs are moving. This is also very helpful in looking for collaboration. Use Web of Science to understand which are the many a times you'll notice people have a senior author from an institution outside India just to lend that brand quality to that paper. How do you decide which collaborator is a better fit for that publishing in that journal? It depends on what kind of relationship. Mostly, and I'm sure the faculty here can vouch, when you start publishing the journal quite regularly, you are often asked to review for the journal also. And that's how you develop a relationship with that journal. Try to use Web of Science data to understand who are people who have reviewed for the journal, who have published in the journal, and if they can be a good fit for a co-author position in your paper. Can they contribute more to your paper? Can they get fit? Having such a co-author often increases your chances of getting successfully published in a journal. And this is what our journal citation report does. End of the day, there is no doubt about it that it is very important that you need to, how do I put it? You need to do good research to publish. But having an idea of these small things can really help you optimize your publication patterns. Okay. In fact, along with this, we also have an AI-based tool called Match Manuscript. What Match Manuscript does is, it takes your title and your abstract and it suggests, based on the keywords present therein, what are the typical topics in that particular, which journal is a better fit for you. So we can try one. Let's look, science. Let's try to take a paper from here. gives you a whole list of journals with a max score. IEEE Census, International Journal of Advanced. You can even click on this profile page. And it gives you a new journal, ESCI. Now these metrics are going to be seen only if you have an active DCR subscription. Now what has changed in the impact factor? For many of the faculty who are conversant with impact factor, earlier impact factor used to be awarded only to those journals in the Science Citation Index and the Social Sciences. So around 12,000 odd journals had an impact factor. From the year 2023, we have expanded the impact factor, the journal impact factor, to more than 10,000 other journals which are in the ESCI. So we realize that journals in the Emerging Sources Citation Index, people are not really understanding how to evaluate their quality. It's a new journal. If you have one quantitative metric, it allows you to evaluate its position. So as a result, we have expanded the impact factor, the journal impact factor, to even the journals in the Emerging Sources Citation Index. Now coming to the point of NIRF ranking, end of the day, at least from Dr. Vakmare's point of view, I'm sure, we need to publish only where it helps you Raj's NIRF ranking, your NAC ranking. Now NAC and NIRF both consider ESCI to be a part of the Web of Science. So if you look at the NIRF report 2022, the indexes which are considered for publication for publication metrics are all the indexes present on the Web of Science book collection. That includes both conferences as well as emerging sources. Now you all don't have conferences right now in your subscription, but when you are doing a conference, when you are deciding to publish in a conference, do check with us whether that conference is a part of Web of Science list or not. Because if it is a part of Web of Science list, doesn't matter, NIRF even considers proceedings and abstracts as a legitimate research output. Very important, because as Professor Vakmare will attest, if you are in computer sciences, if you are in electronics and telecommunications, 50% of your output is in conference proceedings. Okay? So, neglecting to publish or neglecting to see that output actually puts institutions at a disadvantage, and both NIRF and NAC recognize that and they consider conferences. And many times conferences in certain IEEE transactions we have seen, conferences can be cited, they can have citations even higher than that of full-length papers. There is one conference proceeding authored by Professor Kalyan Moy Dev. He was ex-IIT Kanpur, and Professor Dev's conference proceeding abstract has 10,000 plus citations. So it is a myth that conferences will not gain traction. If you are in the life sciences, especially in the clinical side, in chemistry, there are some areas, for example, there is ASCO, there is EBSCO, those conference proceedings must be referred. Many a times, major companies, especially pharmaceutical companies who are publishing research, they will present their findings in the ASCO, the American Society of Clinical Oncology, or at Experimental Biology, or at Society of Doctors. They are big conferences, they are extremely well-respected conferences. So, do keep an eye on conference proceedings to know the latest research which is happening in your field. Very, very important. Now, over here, if you notice, there's something called a journal citation indicator, right? Now, we just mentioned that the journal impact factor by itself does not tell you the whole story. It needs to be taken into context of the subject area and discipline, right? And then we need to see the rank of the journal. So, A journal could have a journal impact factor of 5 and yet we ranked, let's say, 70 out of 140 journals. That means it is a 50% quartile. So in order to give you a metric which is normalized for the year of publication, which is normalized for the subject area, we have given the metric called GCI, or the Journal Citation Indicator. What GCI does is, it gives you one metric that tells you how is your journal performing vis-a-vis other journals in that field. So for every field, the average GCI is 1. So when I say this journal has a GCI of 2.5, that means if you publish in this journal, your probability of getting cited is 2.5 times higher, or your citation impact will be 2.5 times higher than other journals in the field. So whenever you're looking at GIS, also look at GCI, so that you know anything below 1 is a subpar. I won't say subpar, but it is below average. Means there are 50% journals which are better performing than that journal. In this category, in this instance, 0.18 is really low. This is like almost, there are 80% journals which are performing better than this journal. Okay, so this is a very quick metric to understand the position of this journal vis-a-vis other journals in the same subject area. Now, if I wanted to know more from a library perspective, let's say, which are we get this question a lot, which are the journals from India? How many journals from India on web of science? So, very easily. We have 322 journals from India, and if I analyze them, this is another tool which is an add-on tool for GCR. If I analyze these Indian journals, give it a moment. Okay, let's look at the journals. Let's add an indicator over here. Also give you impact factor without self citation over here. So, and then I can just top journal is energy for sustainable development. Okay. When I'm looking at the impact factor with the self citation, this is 5. Now look at this journal. Annals of Phytomedicine. This journal has an extremely high citation rate. What is the impact factor without the 0.4? You might ask, why is it still there on Web of Science? The only impact for this journal, only citation for this journal are basically coming from this particular journal, other papers in the journal itself. The reason for this journal is an extremely niche journal which talks about Indian plants. And that's why most of the papers, this journal is a classic example of a journal which is not predatory but has very, very narrow citation impact because of the fee. When we talked about telecommunication systems, remember telecommunication systems is not publishing anything which is regional in content, right? Its content is global. When we talk about phishing attacks or cybersecurity issues, these are global issues, right? These are not limited to a country. So in that context, a journal which has a narrower citation footprint is not to be considered in a very good light, I would say. Okay? It just shows that you will not, if you publish here, your papers will be read only by certain researchers. All the top researchers from the US, UK, Europe, etc., they are not going to be citing your papers. Okay? So maybe not even reading. It's not even on the radar of their journals to refer to. But this again is a good example because, and if you notice Neurology India, again good example. Neurology India, very good example because it publishes about neurological cases, case reports of very niche area. Doctors who are practicing in India, they are very interested in these journals because they are looking. So again, the major thing that we are trying to emphasize over here, please understand and decide which is your leadership field. You could be from a humanities department in Siraj, where you are talking about certain tribal customs or rituals or anthropological customs in Rajasthan. That becomes your area of research becomes very narrow. You don't expect to publish in multiple, very broad journals. You should be publishing in a narrow journal because people who are working on tribal studies in India, they also look and refer to 6 or 7 journals in their ambit. Okay. These are some of the top journals. Now, insights allows you to do a lot of analysis and benchmarking. One analysis that it allows you to do is organizational analysis. So, for example, if I wanted to know how is Suraj performing, okay, so we can do that. Just look. Okay, here I'll ask the question to the faculty. Since you are a central university, are you benchmarking yourself to other central universities also? You have some names that you want to look at, like how is Suraj's performance? Any other university, sir, which is your peer? Delhi University, okay. Any other university? Yes, sir. Huh? JNU? Excuse me? Bharatiya Vidyapeeth? IIT? IIT Roorkee? So we are doing for the last 5 years. We can also because Suraj is a new university, let us do for 20 to 2022. So it's a more level field. Because all the universities sir has chosen are much more well established. This is also be for NIRF data. So okay. So yes, Suraj does have lower number of publications, which is not to be unexpected because you are a new university. We don't expect a new university to start running rather than walking. Publications build over time, right? And also, if I'm not mistaken, JNU and IIT Roorkee have many more diverse departments as compared to Suraj presently. For example, JNU has a very strong arts and humanities department, which has been there for a very long time. So does IIT Roorkee. Roorkee also has a many people might not know, but IIT Roorkee Social Sciences and Humanities department is very strong. With architecture, urban planning and all. And University of Delhi, again, very old central university, mathematics, again arts and humanities, they are all. And it's a very big university, end of the day. University of Delhi follows an affiliated system and they have so many colleges and it's very big. Now, what is to be noted is, sometimes if you look at the percentage of documents cited, that is impressive. We are looking for 2022. Within the last 3 years, your 850 documents, 3/4 of your documents have at least one citation. So that's a good thing. Because many a times you do not expect a new university's documents, red papers to be cited. You see a lot of, In fact, if you look at AIMS New Delhi, in the last 5 years, they might have around 15,000 publications, but 56% document citation. That means almost half of the papers do not even have one citation. They have 100,000 citations, remember. That is because their citations are being, I would say, driven by some very, very big multi-author papers. Yes, sir. Yes, we can look at the quality of the paper. If you're looking at this metric, this is going to tell you the quality. What is happening here is that, as I said, every discipline has a different citation pattern. Now, in Suraj, University Delhi, any of these institutions, you have different departments working, right? So then, now how do I understand overall? So I'll give an example. Maybe in JNU, they have a particle physics department, right? Which is a part of the CMS collaboration, the Atlas collaborations, right? Where these papers are published with multiple institutions across the world with 5,000 authors each. One of the authors is from, Delhi University. Because of that one author, I am a part of a paper that has got 4,000 citations. And that one paper is driving all my citations. So how do I ensure to take away all these skewness by the CNCI? CNCI gives a weighted average and it allows. So you are slightly below the world average, 0.92. Only one is IIT Roorkee. Okay, IIT Roorkee. Now what we can do is here, authors per document. Let us you don't have any, or your number is not changing. Okay? 150. We are also going to put something like author position. First, last, corresponding. Okay, the filter is taking place. Now, look at JNU. JNU is the one whose CLCI has dropped significantly. Now, what it means, what we are doing is here, how many of us agree? Majority of the work who does in a paper, what position do they get? The leg work, the lab work. What is the position that they get? First author, right? Corresponding author is your PI, the person who is ideating the project, whose money it is, who has got the grant. So if I have the first author and the last author, the corresponding author, from an institution, I can say the majority of the work as well the project ideation was from that institution. So I'm taking away all those co-author papers. When I do that, JNU's numbers go down, most. And even the quality of their papers go down. So this again, your quality does not go down any significantly. 0.92 tha, you just have 0.8. So this way we are getting a much more deep dive. So what we are trying to say is that always 30,000 papers, 14,000, it doesn't matter. We could be a small institution, but we need to have size independent metrics. Because in an ecosystem, you will have a small institution and you have super giant big institution. And IIT Roorkee's funding as of today cannot compare to Suraj's. But Suraj, these are the metrics which will show to the government level when you go tomorrow with grants and all, requests for grants, that you are also doing a good job. You just cannot take, the minister should not say, IIT Roorkee के पास तो 50,000 citation है, इतने Q1 papers हैं. You can show with your metrics also, yes. But sir, we are getting there. You also are doing well. See our citation per paper normalized. And we can put more indicators. So let's look at Q1. Percentage documentation Q1. Okay. Here only IIT Roorkee, and this is very characteristic of the IITs. This is how they have ensured quality. They will not publish until they are publishing in a top journal. 40% of their papers are published in the top 25% of the journals. You are at 34%, not bad. University Delhi is low at 31. So the more you will publish in quartile 1 top journals, it might take more time. The more your citation impact will go. Let us look at open access. Does open access, help in increasing percentage of the open access? Okay. CURAC is 30.64, that's good. IIT is the lowest with 18.55. You all three are on the same, 1/3 of your papers. Again, this is a small request to everybody. Please do not think that the only way you can publish in open access is by paying hefty charges. No. Today in life sciences, especially in life sciences, there is a funder mandate across the world that your papers need to be made fully accessible, right? And therefore, many journals will allow you to upload into your institutional repository or PubMed Central. All of us have heard of about life sciences, you've heard of PubMed Central. You can upload your papers over there. The only thing is that you cannot upload the final journal document. You can upload the accepted version. Web of Science, if there is a legitimate version of a paper, we will always tag. Okay, so we will tag with the abstract the full text record. Today on Web of Science, in this way, we have managed to append $23 million. In fact, yes, sir. Yes, archive also you can, absolutely. So this is, especially Dr. Vaspare will appreciate, sir, you are coming from that. If you have a preprint, once you have got an accepted version, just go to archive, upload the accepted version and change from preprint to postprint. Give the DOI. All journals tell you that please put in the DOI and the link to the paper. So many people can say, okay, I'm fine, there is an archive postprint version, but I want to see the actual journal papers because maybe their institution has access. So just put the link and the DOI, but you can always put a postprint of your paper onto archive. Archive is there, REPEC is there, preprint.org. If you have your own homepage, institutional homepage, there also. And in order to check, where will you check all of this? You will go to a database called Sherpa. You will go to a database called Sherpa Romeo. Sherpa Romeo is maintained by the UK funding site. You can put in the journal, any journal title. Any of the ACS or maybe what we were looking at before technical. Thinking a journal. Can you see submitted version, preprint repository, you can accepted version, you can put it into the institution repository. Accepted version on the author's homepage. If you have a homepage on your institution, you can always put it on your own. Only thing is, must be acknowledged with citation, link to the publisher or reviewer. That's it. But this helps you make your article accessible to a much larger public. So, if you are publishing behind a paywall, please look for copyright policy regime, and accordingly you can self-upload your content and make your article.
So, like sometimes, do you think that the open access every time society?
Yes, yes.
So, they really compare the society so they are also.
Yes, many society journals actually the citations are, open access does increase citations, no doubt about that. The trend that we are noticing today from a bibliometric point of view is mega journals and journals which are publishing via the guest editor model, they are having too many citations. However, we should always publish in these journals with a little bit of caution. If I look at a journal like Sustainability, or there's a journal called Curious, which is for medical sciences, these journals in the last 3-4 years, their output of papers has gone from, let's say, 1,000 in 2018 to today 11,000 in 2022. In 4 years, 1,000% increase. Now the point is, 1,000% increase, are they really employing 10 times more force, 10 times more editors? No, they are not. So what happens in these kind of models is there is a chance that corners will be cut. If you have been an editor of any of these journals, so you have been on demand, they will give you 3 days to review 30 papers. If you can accept, now we know reviewing increases the stature of a scientist, many scientists will accept. But we all know 30 papers to review in 3 days. It is very difficult to do justice to that reviewing process. Earlier, people would review one paper for over 1 week or 10 days. And I have published a journal called Medicine Research Reviews, and I remember getting a review back, which was like the reviewer had gone line by line, okay, and given comments. So, I kept a copy of that review with me, because that tells me this is the amount of work you should ideally put in as a peer reviewer. So, but is that happening in these kind of jobs? No. You see just a perfunctory 5-line review, make some statistical, or one figure they will change. The problem what happens is a lot of junk science is taken. Example, blockchain. If you see today blockchain papers from India in supply chain management, same concept, okay, they have just changed the scenario. Almost word to word similar papers are coming. So it is just, I will not say contaminating, but diluting the importance of the scholarly record. In the long term, what it means is, now journal editors and Web of Science and other citation indexing databases have also become aware of this problem. We now have AI. When we see a journal publishing papers on the same theme, too many papers, we are flagging. Our AI is being able to flag it. We will reconsider this journal for indexing. And we know that if a journal loses its indexing on Web of Science and impact factor, its value decreases substantially. So as I say, when a bank fails, right, there are always warning signs. So please remember, think about what Web of Science as an RBI, as Reserve Bank of India, which is being a regulatory, kind of a check post. But even when a check post, before they say this is good, this is bad, there are always going to be some warning indicators about a journal. So let us, this last part of today's talk, let us talk about some warning indicators. I'll first start with out and out predatory journals. What are out and out predatory journals? Journals with a badly designed website, with grammatical mistakes. Journals which say guaranteed publication. If a journal tells you guaranteed publication in 10 days, do not publish in that journal. Please remember, in the long run, your reputation as a scientist is just not worth it. Because these things will matter when you are coming up for academic appointments. Your number of citations, where you have published, all of these will matter in academic appointments, in tenure track promotion, etc. So, any journal that promises you guaranteed publication is obviously not following the basic rules of peer review. Because if you are going to follow peer review, you will never say that a paper can be, you don't know how the quality is, that depends on the peer review. Next is the lead time from submission to acceptance. If it is very short, that also should give you pause. Now, we just had a session at AIMS Deoghar, and there was a journal, International Journal of Health Education. And we realized it's a journal from Qasim University, it's a university journal. And they said we are concerned because the lead time is only 1 month. Within a month, we are getting an acceptance or rejection notice. When we went back on Web of Science, we realized this journal publishes not more than 50 articles a year. Each issue 25 articles. 25 articles is doable in 1 month. If you are publishing only one issue in 6 months and 25 articles, that means every month they just have 5 or 6 articles to be reviewed, and then all of them together will be published in an issue. So, look at the volume. If you see a journal that publishes 5,000 papers and you have a lead time of only a month, and these are full length. There are journals, tetrahedral letters are there in chemistry and all, which publish short communications, right? So these are smaller papers that can be analyzed and reviewed quicker. Okay. Secondly, go to the Web of Science researcher profiles where we give you peer review information, so you can find out who are the people who are reviewing for the journal. Remember, top scientists reviewing for a journal or the quality of scientists who publish in that journal is very important. If you see top scientists publishing it as an endorsement, look at the editorial board membership. A journal is only as good as an editorial board. If you see good top names in an editorial board, that should give you confidence. Nextly, how do you know that the editorial board affiliations and the names are actually genuine? Look at whether these are current affiliations, whether the institutional name is mentioned or not. Finally, a journal should use a centralized manuscript submission system. There is manuscript central, editorial manager, different submission systems, but it should be not through email. Because a centralized manuscript submission portal means that every submission is being tracked and audit and version trails are available. And finally, not every open access journal is predatory. At the same time, not every open access journal is also following that. So there is always a for-profit, okay, to be made, a for-profit angle. It is up to you as a researcher to be very diligent about this thing. Presence of a journal in Web of Science, citation footprint, how many people, which kind of researchers are citing by those papers, all of this, and combined with the metrics in journal citation report, journal impact factor. Journal impact factor without self-citations. Journal impact factor over time, 5-year journal. All of them together tell you the quality of a journal and let you know that whether the decision that you are making for publication is good or not. With this, I know it's been a long session, but I will end it over here and I open up the floor for questions and answers. Thank you so much. So we are ready for questions if there are any.
Like how a student can target a journal. Suppose some of my friends, I'm working on a broader field.
Yeah.
I know some people who are working with very narrow fields. Now they are targeting journals. I think what she's targeting is like she's not getting the right journal.
Okay.
You know, she's working on a certain topic and she's not able to find that particular journal, and her
Okay.
paper is being rejected again and again. So exactly how a student can find a journal.
Absolutely, that's a great question. So we'll take, ma'am, your example, right? So remember, let's look at 399. This is a good number of papers. Remember, we put different filters in order to, so now 399. The best way would be go to analyze results and see where are your peers publishing in. So in your field, antimicrobial agents and chemotherapy seem to be very popular. Now from here on, what I can do is, let's go over here and refine results by selected. Okay. And let us look at the quality of the journal. It is a quartile 1 journal in pharmacy. Okay, so if your work is, because medicinal chemistry and pharmacology and pharmacy are pretty overlapping fields. If your work has a good amount of experimental animal models or any kind of pharmacology, this is a good journal for you to publish. Also look at, as I said, we need to look at which kind of people are publishing in this journal. Okay. Now let's say you have chosen antimicrobial therapy. Okay. Antimicrobial agents and chemotherapy. Let's see how many of the journal papers over there are talking about the microbiome. So I have 1200 papers which talk about the microbiome. Okay, and if I go back to my citation topic micro, there are papers on tuberculosis. Okay, so out of 17,000 papers, a good 6-7% on one particular micro is being targeted. So there are many people. Overall, let us look at the citation report of this thing. Are these papers over here well cited? Yes. And you see 40 citations per paper. So this is, can you see, this is now what I can do is, let us look in the last 3-4 years what kind of papers have been published. That will give me an idea. Okay, tetracycline, okay, rifamycin, proteolysis is accesses, contribution, okay, first time in human study. Not too many papers on the synthesis, remember. Not too many papers on the medicinal chemistry aspect. That is expected. It's a better journal in pharmacy. It's talking about the broader pharmacological, properties of a particular class of compounds, right? And you can quickly have a look. And you can also see the highest citation. This is 3 citations. Okay. Quickly have a look at the paper. Okay. Similar to newly approved in vitro activity. If you have good pharmacology data, either in vitro or in vivo data, this and on microbacterium, especially if you have done work. Let's say your target is a mycobacterial cell wall protein. You have developed 2 or 3 compounds. Maybe one paper can be published in a bioorganic medicinal chemistry letters for the synthesis part, right? And the second part of the thesis, where you study more about the mechanism and the pharmacology of the paper, you will show that it's really efficacious. That can go over here. And this is a well-cited journal. It's a quartile 1 journal, and your rate of rejection will mostly be much lower. And you can also look at where are the people who are publishing come from. I mean, how well is India represented over here? India with 15 papers, not too many as South USA. Obviously, USA has much more. This is a great way if you have some professor, some senior who is now in an American institution, maybe they could be a good paper. Because you do see lower India papers, But that was expected. Many of the top paper journals in pharmacy, pharmacology, our contribution from India is a little bit on the lower side. So you will notice the papers which Indian authors publish often have US or UK collaborator. But does that give you a good idea of how to go about selecting a journal as a researcher?
I would
Yeah.
like to know about, like, since we don't have the subscription to conferences,
But ACR.
but how
You still have Web of Science. And if you think ACR was very helpful, please recommend to your library. That's all you can say. But you still have ever signed to do this analysis. Yes, sir. I can't hear you. Can you repeat it, sir?
There's a new journal.
Yeah.
It is like 1 or 2 years old. And
Okay.
it's like communication issues in each and like couple of months. And it is prepared not like as well as sponsors that journal.
Can you be a little bit loud? I can't get it. It's not very clear, sir. Yes, you are.
There's a new journal.
Okay.
Name of digital analytics planner. I'm not computer science, so
Okay.
it's not that much. And it is like publishing in every couple of months. It is
Okay.
publishing new issues. So it is growing, rapidly growing journal,
Mhm.
and it is required to publish a new paper in the journals or not, because I submitted a paper in SNCS, like
Okay.
being a teacher, and it is like 9 months already,
Okay.
and it is in under review.
This is a very common thing that I always get. First of all, if your paper is under review for 9 months, that's not
Yeah.
acceptable for anything. In case your paper is given to a journal and within 6 weeks you don't get back, first of all, within 2 to 3 weeks you don't get back anything, not even under review. It's just static. You're tracking your submission, it's just static. Doesn't say it's a desk rejection. Desk rejections are rejections when the editor looks at the content and says this is not within the scope of the journal or whatever the reason is, and they immediately say that we don't want to publish it. That's okay. Gives you closure that you know that you do not want to target that journal. But let's say your journal goes under review. Okay.
Yeah, now it is like,
Have you written to your editor in chief?
yeah, I already did my
You need to be very persuasive. Write multiple times to the editor-in-chief or the associate editor, because when it's under review, you often get a letter, right? That is, which has the email or the signature of the person who is handling your paper. Write to them and tell them very clearly, if you are not giving a decision, should I withdraw? Because 9 months is too much. Okay. Now, secondly, coming to your question. I would trust, as I said, not every rapidly increasing journal is a problem. Okay. Look at the editorial board and first of all, look whether it is indexed in a database like Web of Science or other scientific database. It is a Scopus index journal. Okay. It is not yet indexed on Web of Science. Or have you checked it? What is the name of the journal?
They submit like they are going for the in next couple of years it will be
They cannot say that in the next couple of years. That is, they don't know. That is something which only our editors know, which even we don't have, a full knowledge of. So that is. So first thing, if it's not on Web of Science, it is it is a decision that you have to make. But I would go at this point with the editorial board composition, and I would try to look in the journal back issues, where are the papers coming from? Are good institutions, represented in the author list of that? Try looking at that. In case you feel this is a substandard journal, means you are getting, most of the people are from top, like second tier engineering colleges in India or colleges in North Africa or just the Middle East, I would be a little skeptical because in the long run, okay, you see, you are a PhD student, these papers are going to be the foundation for your next academic appointment, be that a postdoc, be that a academic position as a professor or not. Okay, and though or whatever our government says, if you go to an IIT and ISL appointment, they do look for only top journals. They do look for, look at the IIT and ISL professors, 100% of them are educated outside India. I mean, at least their postdoctoral position or something. So they are looking, the government is looking for internationally trained scientists, no doubt about that. Okay, and they are looking for top journals. So if you are going to publish, so I would suggest there are other journals. Look at Web of Science Master Journal list. Many journals we do give you the submission to acceptance lead time. Okay. There is Think, Submit, Check, another platform that allows you to see good journals. Okay. Secondly, if it's a pay to publish model, look for journals which have very modest ABCs, or they are journals without an ABC. Okay, which are being flouted by societies. Often, think in a commercial angle. A for-profit publisher has more incentive to game the system than a society publisher. Because societies are not really making it. If today Suraj has a journal, you are not going to have a commercial angle to it. So the chances of gaming and getting bad papers in, unless and until they are not from Suraj, the incentive, the motivation is much lower. But for you, sir, I would really suggest look at editorial board and look at author, origin. Do not try to publish. If you really want to publish, need to publish in order to get your degree, better publish in a better conference. If you have already done in a conference, can you combine another aspect of your study and submit it to a better journal? Okay. Can you get a collaborator from maybe an IIT and all, somebody who can try that route also? That route really helps. Look at the network. No, it does look at Stanford 2%. All of us have heard of Stanford 2%. Look at the research network. You will not see a single, and this is something I can show you on Insights also. As the institutions, and let's go to Insights, let us put an indicator over there. Okay. Look at the international collaborations. You are a lower institution, that's why you have 32%. As you grow higher, until and unless you are able to maintain the momentum. But see, the more, if you see the international collaborations, for all top institutions, it's higher international collaboration. So, having a research network really helps you. But for this particular question, do look at the editorial. If it's a decent editorial board, I would say you can go into it. But if it's an editorial board whose composition you cannot verify, or they are not from very well-known institutions, I would say.
I also checked that report, and it is also sharing from other journals, which is also given the academic condition is also constant.
So that's fine. What about the board? Which institutions are they from? Are they from good top institutions across the board? Are they scientists whose work you are aware of? Are they scientists? Just go and check my Web of Science. Are these well-cited authors? If you get an editorial board whose authors themselves are not experts in the field, that shows that the journal is not going to grow that much. So look into these little bit more. Okay, I know it's a very frustrating thing as a PhD scholar. Trust me, I've gone through this process myself. It is a frustrating thing. You get reviews, you get rejection, you get multiple revisions. But in the long run, waiting for the, meeting is and going for the better. But see, yours should be a scholarly record remains on your name forever, sir.
So, madam is there with us, so you can ask more information.
Thank you. Thanks for the question.
So, thank you ma'am for your nice talk and talking about citations, right? Very thoroughly. I also recommending our students to look at the journals and their citations, and there are like society journals and there are some predatory journals. So you have to know about like all these journals. So ultimately, like your research and your work you are going to publish, so you should also aware about that. Okay. So again, thank you.